been another fascinating Premier League weekend, and it's a pleasure to welcome John Giles and Liam Brady to review what we saw. And one of the most interesting things we saw was a hat-trick from Erling Haaland for Manchester City. They were 2-0 down at home to Crystal Palace at half-time, and he came out, scored a second half hat-trick. And I want to ask two of the great players of their age about this guy. John, Haaland, they got him for 57 million because that was his buyout clause price from Dortmund. Looking at him, and we've seen him now, I think he's going to make such a difference that I'd fancied him to win the Champions League this year, and I think he might become one of the all-time greats. Am I being a bit premature, do you think, or have you been impressed?
Oh, very impressed, Damon. We have seen him a few times before he came to City.
Yep.
And he's been knocking loads of goals in for the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, he has, Damon. For Dortmund. Yep.
You know, and I think he's only 22 now.
Yep.
So he can only get better.
Yes.
With experience. There's no doubt about that. So he's going to get the goals for City. But you'd have to say, City had better tighten up.
Yes. Yep.
That's twice now. They were 2 behind in Newcastle, was it?
Yeah, Newcastle went 2-0 up on them, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and they went 2-0 up on them. Now, they're not two of the best teams. I think what they've done, is midfield, they've little or nobody in midfield.
Right.
You know, and when they're attacking, okay, that's fine, they will score goals. But I don't think they have the right balance at the moment when they lose the ball, that they're conceding too many goals. So anyway, I get back to Haaland. Oh yeah, he's a winner for them, and I think he was always going to be with the record that he's had in the last 2 or 3 years. He's fantastic. I mean, the size of the lad.
Yeah,
he's a huge. What is he? He's
big, strong man, 6'4", I'd say, 6'3", 6'4".
Yeah. So he's huge lad, and usually they can be a bit awkward.
Yeah.
But he's anything but. You know, his control is good. He's good. He's terrific balance. He's very, very quick.
Yeah.
So he has the temperament to do it.
Yeah.
So he's ticking all the boxes in that sense. So if they make the chances, which City will do, if they tighten up on the defence, he's got to be scoring 30 to 35 goals this season, barring injury, of course.
Of course, yeah. Liam, you've played with and against great centre forwards you had, or strikers. You had Thierry Henry, for example, at Arsenal, who is one of the all-time greats. How do you rate Haaland?
Well, he's playing in a very good team, that are going to make him chances all the time.
Yes.
You know, so that's a huge advantage for him.
Yeah.
But just like John said, he ticks all the boxes. He's got all the attributes. He's got height. He's powerful. He's quick. His third goal yesterday, you see him holding the 2 centre backs off with his physique.
Yes.
He knocks them onto the floor and then finishes beautifully with his left foot. Also, what I've noticed about him, and he seems to have a knack of just getting free in the box. You know, he's had 2 or 3 tap-ins, inside the 6-yard box where he's just found space for himself. So, very, very good. And I, like John, I think I said it last week, you would expect 30 goals a year 30 league goals from this lad, no problem with the chances he's going to get playing in that team. And like John, I agree they'll have to tighten up at the back. Anytime I see John Stones, I thought he had a terrible game up in Newcastle, and he wasn't very good. He wasn't very good against Crystal Palace.
No, including an own goal.
They could have gone 3 down, with the mistake from the goalkeeper rolling the ball out. I don't know why. If VAR had looked at that, I don't know why. That ball was in play, when Edwards took his foot out. That would have put Palace 3-0 ahead.
Yeah.
So, you're saying the certainties for the Champions League game, and I'm not so sure with that defence. But, they've let a lot of goals in already this season, so they've been a bit sloppy, but with him in leading the line, they're obviously going to win things again this year.
Yeah, I wouldn't say certainties, but I've always thought that at the highest level, funny enough, it's their defence that's always been a bit weak, but they have Diaz there now. But Stones is a weakness, there's no doubt. Laporte is out with a long-term injury. But it's nice, John, to be able to acknowledge a great player at the age of 22. He's a bit younger than Mbappe, but they are the two great players. But Mbappe's situation at Paris Saint-Germain isn't too healthy, in my view anyway. He can pick the team. They gave him 300 million to stay, the Qataris. That's not good for a young guy. And I think where Haaland is now is the right place to be, yeah?
Yeah, I'd pick Haaland, Eamon.
Yes, so would I.
Before anybody at the moment.
Yes.
You know, I mean, his attitude is good. There's no fuss about him. Gets on with it. He's a team player. Definitely, he's a big plus for Manchester City. But they're not perfect, Eamon. You know,
no.
you shouldn't be losing that many goals with a centre forward like that, scoring so many goals. You just got to tighten them, and I think it's in midfield. I know I've gone on a little bit.
No, you have.
About it.
I mean, Rodri's there like a statue on his own. What the reason, John, I think, is that, I mean, De Bruyne isn't a classical midfield player. He gets forward. Bernardo Silva isn't a midfield player as such. He gets forward. He's an attacking player. So is Mahrez. So Gundogan, he's drifting into the box. He gets a few goals, but he's not a midfield player as such.
No.
You're right.
Bernardo Silva is the best of them in midfield.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
He doesn't play him there,
it showed at Newcastle, like when they were getting forward with all the players, which is good. But you have to have a balance to it. You can't be losing as many goals as City are losing.
No.
And make the comebacks that they have to, even only in 2 games.
Yeah.
And of course, Haaland is going to be, he'll score goals anyway, Eamon.
Yeah.
But if they do it in the right way, they shouldn't be conceding as many goals as they're conceding at the moment.
No.
I mean, that's twice they've come back from 2 goals.
Yeah, they've conceded 5 goals and they haven't played a big team yet. I mean, Crystal Palace being a good example there. Vieira's clearly done a decent job there, but they're not really a team you should be afraid of. Liam, I watched Arsenal against Fulham. Now, I think Fulham are a decent team, but I was disappointed in Arsenal, and I know you expressed reservations yourself the last couple of weeks when we talked about them. They're top of the table. They haven't dropped any points, but they haven't played any of the big teams yet.
No, and I don't think anyone should get carried away. You know, the fact that they've won 4 on the trot and the top of the table.
Yeah.
You know, they beat Bournemouth last week. Look what happened to Bournemouth this week. They've got to be, you know, one of the worst teams that I've seen, you know, come up from the Championship and go into the Premiership. So, you know, you've got to take that with a pinch of salt. They struggled to beat Fulham, Eamon.
They did.
Jesus wasn't as good as he has been. They got into good positions, but they messed them up quite often, and they gave a silly goal away. Gabriel, miscontrol, lack of. There's always a mistake in that lad as well.
Yes.
You know, so down through the time that I've seen him at Arsenal, there's always a kind of a mistake that could lead to a goal. But you have to say, you know, Odegaard was very, very good again.
Yeah.
You've got very good forward line, although, as I say, Jesus didn't play as well as he has been playing. But I think they deserve to win on the whole. But Fulham are no great shakes, Eamon. So I think you just got to wait over the course of time to see if Arsenal are the real deal. I still think this is question mark.
Just let me ask you before I go to John Liam. Saka, the young right winger, he's in the England team. He's been in the England team, played for England during the Euros. I thought he was terrific, but I didn't think he played at all on Saturday. And it's the second time I've seen him this season. He looks out of sorts or something, lacking confidence. Am I wrong?
Well, I think you're wrong. Yeah, I think he had a very good game against Crystal Palace, when they opened the season up by beating Palace 2-0 at Palace. I think he's had an in and out time. I didn't think he played that great against Fulham.
Right.
But he'll deliver, Eamon. They have a forward line that probably one of them's going to deliver on the day. Do you know what I mean?
I do, yeah.
So,
Martinelli's another one, yeah.
Yeah, Martinelli's another one, and he's had a decent start to the season. So I don't think that's where the problem is. I think with those lads up front, you'll always get goals. It's in defence, maybe with Gabriel. Not too sure about the goalkeeper. I've got to wait and see on him before I say he's been a real good buy. And in the centre of midfield, I still think there's room for a really top player in there instead of to go along with Partey or Xhaka.
Yeah.
We need. I think everybody's looking for that midfield player. There are not many around, and I think Liverpool have got their eye on bringing somebody in that position as well.
And I can't find anybody. John, Leeds, your own team, your own club, beaten 1-0 by Brighton. Brighton are bang in there now. They're in the top 4. It's early, of course, in the season, and Leeds are actually 5th. But Brighton should have beaten them by more. I was talking to you at the weekend, and you said last week on the podcast, this is the way Leeds are going to be. Some days very good, some days not so good.
Well, yeah, all or nothing. But Brighton deserved to win.
Yep.
I mean, they could have won by more, and certainly Graham Potter, the manager. I mean, I saw a list the other day. I haven't got it with me now of the players that they sold in the last couple of seasons.
Yes, yeah.
They sold about 5 players, first team players.
Yeah.
I mean, the job he's doing that is remarkable.
Yep.
But Leeds were disappointed. I think they're going to be like that, Leeds, Eamon. Good days, bad days, all or nothing.
Yep.
And it was one of those nothing days on Saturday. There's no doubt about that. So they'll be inconsistent, Damon, to say the least.
Yeah, let me ask you, John, about Liverpool's 9-0 win against Bournemouth. Diaz scored the first goal after 3 minutes, a header, and he scored the last goal as well. He scored 2 goals. He's a wonderful player. I think he's going to be a real addition to the Liverpool team. 9-0, I think Liam said, Bournemouth are probably the worst team to have come up from the Championship in recent years. And 9-0, you still only get 3 points for it. What lesson do you draw from the match, if any?
Well, first of all, I feel sorry for Scott Parker at Bournemouth. He's got promotion for him.
Yeah.
And I heard him a couple of weeks ago, actually. He was complaining. They haven't helped him at all in the transfer market. So he's going to be up against it. But Liverpool did what they had to do at this particular time.
Yeah.
Eamon.
Yeah.
They've had a bad run, as we know. But I think it was only a matter of time. I think I said it before. I think Klopp made a mistake, Eamon, when they got back pre-season training. He was making a lot of, we're back too early. The lads are, we have a lot to do, and that gets in the lads' head.
Yeah.
But I think when you get what they've had, and I'd say definitely during the week, listen, get back here. We've got to start playing again now.
Right.
So I'd say Liverpool in their attitude, and attitude is everything, Eamon.
Yes.
Are back.
Right.
I think they're back. You don't become a bad team overnight, I mean, you don't become a good team overnight. And with the players that they have, certainly they weren't playing as well as they could play. And I think that was down to the early start of the season where they were taking it a little bit easy because there was a lot of matches to play. I think they're back now. Okay,
Liam, there was an incident in the game they really threw away at Manchester where James Milner confronted Van Dijk after Sancho's goal, the first goal, and he really had a right go at him, poked his finger in his chest, said to him, "Look at me when I'm talking to you." And Van Dijk has been, in my view, very casual, Liam. He's an elegant player, he's quick, he's a really great player. But for that goal and for Trent, alongside Trent, who leaves gaps all over the place, but Milner's bollocking of Van Dijk, I thought was very interesting and significant. I don't know if you saw it, but they've showed...
I did see it, Eamon. Yeah. I did see it. And I also saw that Milner wasn't in the team yesterday or the day before.
Yeah,
and Klopp had a clear-the-air meeting for 2 hours amongst the players.
I didn't know that, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know whether that had anything to do with it. I thought, it was quite admirable to see somebody stand up to it. Yes. He has been casual. He was casual for the goal.
He was.
Crystal Palace scored against him.
Yes. Yeah.
where he didn't really want to close down,
Yes.
And he's more or less saying you can shoot, So that has been, we've always said what a great player he is,
and he is,
fantastic
of course,
signing,
and
it really got him and the goalkeeper really got Liverpool, turned Liverpool into a great team.
Yes.
So it's hard to be critical of. Sometimes he's casual. Sometimes he looks for offside rather than running back.
Yes.
We've pointed that out. A lot of people have criticised us about it, but they do give goals away. I'm going to throw something out there, Eamon. I think Klopp should play Trent Alexander in the middle of the park and get a right back who can defend and who knows what he's doing when the ball is getting crossed in his box. He's not watching the ball because Trent Alexander has given an awful lot of goals away with poor positioning and going to sleep.
Yes.
And yet when I see him in midfield, he's terrific. When he moves into midfield from that right back position, he can switch the play, he can hit the ball 30, 40 yards right to somebody's feet. He's a great crosser of the ball as well. And he can score goals. Look at the goal he got
on Saturday,
he played a lovely little 1-2. I think Klopp should give him a goal in midfield, to be quite honest.
Okay, well, I disagree fundamentally, and we let John be the referee here. Fullbacks moving into midfield, Liam, it's much different. You're getting the ball in midfield, but you're back to goal. You got to get turned.
Yeah, well, we haven't seen him, Eamon, have we? We haven't seen him. How can you say that when you have never seen him play in there?
Well, I think he started off as a midfield player when he joined the club, but I don't think, in principle, when you're a fullback, Liam, you're always getting the ball and you're facing the way you want to go, and the whole pitch is in front of you, and you don't usually have someone tight on you marking you.
Well, you watch the goal he scored yesterday.
I saw it.
You watch it. He does lose the ball in midfield. He gets it back and he plays a lovely little 1-2 when plenty of bodies were around him, and then smashed it in.
Right.
I think he could be a really top midfield player, and you get him out of that position at right back where he gives goals away.
Okay, we'll let the Chief be the referee here. Chief?
Well, he's the Chief.
Chief?
I'm sorry, Liam, I have to agree with Eamon. I'll tell you why.
We haven't seen him in there, John, have we?
I did. They tried him with England in one of the matches in midfield. The manager of England.
I don't remember that.
I don't remember it either, but the principle of it.
But I remember it.
Yeah, well,
he did. I agree with principle with him. If you're playing in midfield, as you know, you played in midfield. We all played in midfield. It's getting possession of the ball in space is the real thing. It's a hard thing in midfield. But if you're a fullback like he is, and he's coming into midfield, Liam, he's an extra man. He doesn't have to make space for himself.
Yeah.
But if you actually play in midfield, now you have your back to the play a lot of the time, unless you're a really top class player. I wouldn't play him in midfield because of that. And I'd say he'd hardly get a kick of the ball, to be quite honest, Liam, in making his own position in that game.
I can't agree with you there. I'd love to see him on the right of Fabinho. I think Fabinho coming back into the team as well the other day made a difference.
Yes.
I'd love to see him on the right-hand side of Fabinho.
Well, we'll agree to disagree with it, but I've seen fullbacks. I think he was a midfielder recently.
He was, yeah. He was.
When you're playing, if you're playing left back in your time, you'd be on the ball all the time, right? But if you look at the situation at Liverpool, when they were at Manchester United, not just last week, when they have to defend, they're in big, big trouble. Most of the time with Liverpool, because they've got such good players, they're attacking. When he's asked to defend, he's hopeless defending. But I definitely wouldn't. I certainly, if I was Klopp, I would try him in the middle field. My attitude to it now is that playing a fullback and going into midfield. I've seen him in situations last week where they'd lost the ball and he was up at the penalty area of the opposite team. Yeah. So he's free to do whatever he wants going forward. So he's a free man in that situation.
Yeah,
and that's when they're on top Liverpool, which they are most of the time.
He's tremendous going forward. He's probably the best there is going forward from a full-back position. He makes goals, he scores goals. He's brilliant, but he's not good defending.
But Barca had a full-back like that. I think it was Dani Alves in their great side with Xavi and Iniesta.
Yeah, he didn't play midfield.
No, he played full-back.
Well, look, we can go on too long about. I'd like to see him have a go in midfield. It might never happen, but so we'll never know.
Okay, the other thing...
I'll tell you what, Liam, can I just come in there? But I'll tell you what they should do, and it's Klopp's thing. Teach him to play full-back.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be that difficult to say, look, I don't want you going forward all the time and getting this silly position. And if you do and we lose the ball, you get back as quickly as you possibly can. I mean, in the Manchester United match, the full goal to Lange got behind him. I know. And if you notice, Liam, afterwards...
I know what his weaknesses are.
Well, when he did get behind him, Liam, he didn't dash back into the box, actually. He trotted back into the box.
He's no defensive instincts. He's no defender's instincts, and that's the problem. And the other thing, Liam, I just say, when you're in midfield and you're such a good player, a standout player as he is, you're marked. And that's a difference. When you're a fullback, wingers don't know how to mark. But anyway, we leave it there and let the listeners make their own minds up, because I want to move on to Steven Gerrard. Liam, I'll ask you first. A lot was made of what he achieved with Rangers, and he achieved a lot. He turned the ship around with Celtic, made them the dominant team. A lot was expected of him at Villa. They're on a poor run now, lost at home to West Ham 1-0, and a lot of their fans are very, very restless. It's a tough job, Villa, because they expect a lot. He could be in a bit of bother.
Well, yeah, I don't know what the owners are like. I think they're Chinese owners, Eamon. I think they are. I think they're Chinese owners. And they're giving them a fair bit of money. And I think we said it, after he made a really good start at Villa. Obviously, he did well at Rangers to wrestle the title situation back off Celtic. So he did a really good job up there. And he came to Villa, did very, very well, got them going again. But he hasn't been great with the checkbook. The players he's bought, Coutinho, for instance. And I'm not too sure that lad is very hungry anymore to be a top footballer. So I think he hasn't spent that well. Certainly doesn't look like it, judging from the results they've had. Yeah. And I think John is probably going to say this, but I agreed with John last week. He can be very critical of his own players. Yes. In the open, and maybe the dressing room's not quite 100% with him.
Yep, and John, he sussed out Mings, which I think we've talked about before. That Mings has ideas about himself. He's centre-half, he's captain of the club. And 2 weeks ago, he took the captaincy off him. He wasn't in the team at all at the weekend. And you've seen this coming a bit, haven't you? Because, as Liam said, you're the one who spotted him having a go at his own players in public, which is a no-no for you.
Well, he did it with Mings, Eamon.
Yes, he did, yeah.
Very, very much so. Yeah. And I don't... Well, in my experience of football, that never does any good. No. You can do that privately. Yeah. Leave him out. But when you go public on it, and I think it can happen. I've seen it with managers, Eamon, where the criticism becomes too severe. Yes. Right? And I've seen players go, oh, that's enough from him. Yeah. I've had enough from him. I mean, there's a way of criticising players and handling players, and especially publicly, Eamon. In the dressing room, it stays in the dressing room and that. But you have to do, in my opinion anyway, you have to protect the players as much as you possibly can. Right. But if you don't like somebody, that's between you and him. Yeah, exactly. It doesn't have to go to the press. Yeah. Yeah. And if Mings could be a lad too that's popular with the fellow players. Yeah. And they see then what a manager's doing to him. Yeah. They don't like it, and he loses. I think he loses out, and I think he is severe. Anytime I've seen him after a match, like talking, there's a few players who could say, "I don't like that." Yeah. Right. I've just been handed a piece of paper, Liam, by a member of our team. The Villa owners are Egyptian,
So we don't know what they're like, and we don't know what fate has in store for...
well, they've had a few owners. They've gone from an American, I think it was Randy Lerner, to Chinese. I know the Chinese were in there at one time. So anyway, that just shows you how difficult it is to run a football club when the ownership keeps changing.
Yeah. Now, Manchester United, Liam, they've just paid 100 million for Anthony, who's a Brazilian from Ajax. The coach obviously knows him and has coached him successfully. They've been obviously turned over for the money because they were offering 65, 70 million. Now, in desperation, they paid 100 million. They beat Southampton, and I thought they worked very hard, and I thought they deserved their win. He's got a long way to go, but after the shambles of the first match, first two games, like the Liverpool result and the 1-0 at Southampton might get them on the road, but they still, quality-wise, they still need players. What did you make of that performance?
Well, you said it, Eamon. You just said it yourself. The difference was between the first two games and the game against Manchester United and the game against Southampton was they worked hard.
Yeah.
They worked hard for one another. They closed people down. Against Liverpool, they were very, very quick to pressurise Liverpool. And they did really, really well because everybody was pulling together.
Yeah.
And a bit the same yesterday, maybe not pressing high like they did against Liverpool, but they got back in numbers and they denied Southampton space up around the goal mouth. They were average in how they played.
Yes.
But they worked hard, and that's the difference between the first two games.
Yes.
On the new signing, I think they do need a focal point up front. You've seen City spend that much money on Haaland, and Arsenal have gone and got Jesus, and they need somebody in that position because they tried Rashford, they tried Ronaldo, and it hasn't worked. So he knows the player. But I was looking at his goal scoring record.
Not great.
It's not great, Eamon. So all the best with spending that much money for somebody who doesn't knock in that many goals. But you have to. I think we said about Ten Hag. He has to have a period of time, where he's let get on with the job to see if he can create a team. But to go back to your question, they worked harder, Eamon.
Yeah, John, they did work harder, and that fella Martinez, who was criticised so heavily after the Brentford match because he's only 5'9". And he does play at the back. He could play in a back three or a back four. He's actually against Liverpool. He was like a terrier. He gets stuck in. He's an Argentine. He's not afraid to get stuck in. And the same again against Southampton. He got stuck in again. Do you think the issue that was talked about, that he's only 5'9", there's a lot of high balls in English football, he won't be able to compete in the air. Do you think that's legit or not?
Well, it depends who you're playing against, Eamon, and how the game is going.
Yeah.
I think that there will be occasions where he will be caught out.
Yeah.
With a big lad from free kicks or corner kicks.
Haaland springs to mind.
Well, exactly. I mean, Haaland, if the ball, if there's a competition between those two, it's no competition. Yeah. But he gets stuck in. I thought at times, he was a little bit getting stuck in a bit too much.
Yeah, diving into
a bit dangerous. There was a bit dangerous situations. He was as if he was trying to prove like he was a tough guy.
Yeah,
he probably is a tough guy.
Yes,
but you've got to be careful as well in that situation. But I think the big turning point for Manchester United is the manager sorting out the Ronaldo problem.
Right.
I think he's actually told them. I think he's told all the players, "I'm not playing you.
Yep.
You can go if you want to go. Go."
Yep.
And that's. I mean, Ronaldo would be hugely influential in the dressing room.
Yes.
I mean, he has to be the player that he's been, and he has said from the start he wanted to go.
Yeah.
Now, I think from the start he should have said, "Okay, off you go."
Yeah.
Because you can't make a player play for you,
No.
and that disturbs the dressing room in a big way. Now, with Ronaldo, I know he came on a sub, but he's been left out a couple of times. And I think you can see that in the players.
Yeah. Yeah. I can understand. understand that entirely. They're a team. We're all the same. There's no special players here. Everyone's got to do the work. I mean, the work is shared.
That's your starting point.
Yep.
You know, the starting point on the pitch is having a go. You don't have to be a great player, a talented player, to have a go.
No.
And once the team's not having a go, you're in big trouble, and if one is not doing it, and he's so influential as Ronaldo, I think he sorted a lot out by letting the other players know you're not going to be doing what you want to do, and if you want to go, you're going.
Okay. Just before we go, lads, Liam, Spurs, they didn't play brilliantly at Forest, because Forest, I thought, were decent and have some good players. Harry Kane didn't have a particularly good game, but he scored 2 goals, missed a penalty. But Spurs are they're shaping up. They're third in the table. You know them very well from North London, the whole culture of that club. What do you make of the start of the season and the job that Conte's done so far?
Well, it's been a bit of a continuation from last week, and they beat Wolves 1-0 last week. Harry Kane scored a goal. But they didn't play particularly well. And I thought against Chelsea, they were lucky against Chelsea. I wasn't impressed with them there. But, you know, on the positive side, you have to say, well, they haven't played that well and they've got 10 points for 4 games.
Yeah.
And it's the best start they've made for something like 13, 14 years since Harry Redknapp was the manager.
Yeah.
So, you know, on one side of things, you could say, well, if they start playing well, they'll get even better results. But I'd be a little bit worried if I was a Spurs fan at how average they're playing.
Yeah.
You know,
and
the style of play. You know, if they win, I think I said it last week. Spurs fans, they like their football played in a certain way.
Yes.
Certainly, Conte is not playing that way.
Right.
But once the game's all about results. Once you get results, they keep quiet. If they don't get results, you start hearing mumblings. You know, we don't want to play this way. You know, we don't want to play with so many behind the ball. And so forth. That's the way I see it at the moment, David.
Yeah, John. They have a couple of new players. Kulusevski's a Swede, and Perisic. Perisic is a Croat. He played for Croatia. He's one of their regulars. He's a veteran almost. He's played for a lot of teams all over Europe, including Bayern Munich. He's a good, honest journeyman, you might call him, but he's a good player. Doesn't do stupid things, keeps the ball, gets his foot in. What do you make of what you're seeing, John, from Spurs at the moment, bearing in mind Liam's remarks about the culture at Spurs down the decades, which was always what used to be called push and run, in other words, good football?
Well, I think once the team is winning, I think Liam alluded to that there, then the Spurs fans go along with it. It's when they're not playing, do good stuff and losing. You know, I think Spurs is the situation at Spurs at the moment is typical of a top-class manager coming in, doing his job, and getting them to play as best they possibly can. Right? I don't think they're ever going to be attractive, but they're going to be highly, highly efficient.
Yes.
And everybody having a go for the team. I mean, you know, I think the results that we've seen in the last few weeks from Spurs, a year ago, I don't think they would have got more than 2 points.
Yes. Yeah.
From the Chelsea match, the match yesterday. Not Forest were very, very good.
They were very good,
Very good. But they never gave anything away. They defended when they had to defend, and that's what. Then you attack when you possibly can. That's the basic of any team. But it's getting them to do that. I mean, like, they did attack when they got a chance to attack. They didn't sit back in the game. They had to defend well because Forest were playing well. But when they had a chance to attack, they did so. And I think it's down to Conte. I think they'll get better and better. I think he'll get better players in and get the money to do it. But at the moment, he's doing what all great managers do. He's making the best, if not better than that, of the players he has at his disposal. They're a team, a real team.
Just a final quick question to both of you. Alan Saint-Maximin, we saw him play against City, and we've seen him a lot at Newcastle, Liam. He's a speed machine. He goes on a lot of mazy runs. He got a great goal, equaliser in the last minute for Newcastle away to Wolves. He's something else. You've no doubt seen him.
Yeah, I like him, Eamon, I have to say.
Yeah.
I do like him. The criticism you have of him is, what's the end product?
Yeah.
But in recent weeks, we've seen it, you know.
Yeah.
He's made goals against Man City. He gave Walker. You very rarely see Walker in trouble when fellas are taking him on because he's so quick. But he gave Kyle Walker a real problem last week. And he got the goal of the weekend, didn't he?
He did, yeah.
At the weekend. What a great volley. Yeah, he's got end product at the moment, Eamon, and I like watching him. I'll leave it at that.
John, did you see the goal? He's not your type of player.
Yeah, I did. I saw the match, Eamon. Yeah, I'd live with him, Eamon.
Right.
He's one probably the only player that can beat players the way he beats them in the Premier League.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now he's come into a better team now.
Yes.
Eamon.
Yeah.
You know, when he was playing with Newcastle up to recently, when they started to get some players in, it was very difficult for him because he didn't have any support, and he wasn't doing at times he was doing what he can do, and it was brilliant. But I'd live with him. Yeah. Eamon. You know, if he's got good players around him now. And I'd say, you said to him, right, when you go, do your stuff. Yeah. Because I think with lads like that, if they're losing the ball a bit, Eamon, and then players around them or the manager say, oh, what the flipping hell are you doing there? Then they lose that confidence. They have to have that confidence and a freedom for the manager to say, when you get it, get at them. Right. And he can do it. He can do it.
No doubt about that. Okay, John and Liam, thank you very much indeed for joining us on your bank holiday. We're very, very pleased, as always, and privileged, really, to have two great analysts who are great players. We're grateful to John and Liam.